I've always loved the ocean. There's something about the salt in the air, the endless sound of waves breaking against the shore, that used to make me feel safe. Like nothing bad could ever happen when you're that close to something so beautiful, so eternal. But that was before last summer. Before the beach became a place I can't even think about without my chest tightening, my palms going cold. My name is Rachel, and this is what happened on my relaxing summer trip. It was supposed to be perfect. My two best friends, Sarah and Emily, and I rented a little beach house just outside a sleepy coastal town. We'd been saving up for months, planning a full week away from work, school, and everything else. Just the three of us, a small wooden cabin by the dunes, and the promise of long, warm nights under the stars. The house was small but beautiful old, with white paint peeling off its sides and a big porch facing the water. When we arrived, the sky was a watercolor blend of orange and purple, the ocean just a short walk away. There was no one else around. No neighbors, no tourists, no sound, but the wind through the tall grass and the waves in the distance. At first, it felt magical, exactly what we'd wanted. Inside, the place was cozy. 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, mismatched furniture that smelled faintly of salt and dust. The landlord had left a note on the counter welcoming us and warning us to watch out for high tide. It made us laugh, as if we'd somehow forget the ocean was right there. By the time we unpacked and cooked our first meal, it was already dark. The moon was huge that night, sitting low over the water like a lantern. After dinner, we decided to walk down to the shore. The path through the dunes was narrow and a little overgrown, the sand cool under our feet. The wind had picked up, and every few seconds we heard it whistle through the dry grass. The beach was beautiful, empty, the kind of quiet that almost feels sacred. We didn't see anyone else. We walked along the waterline for a while, talking, laughing, kicking at the foam where the waves licked the sand. Then Emily stopped walking. "Do you guys see that?" she asked, pointing down the beach. At first, I didn't see anything. Then I spotted them. Footprints. Dozens of them. They weren't ours. They led from the water up toward the dunes, barefoot, one set looking smaller than the other. The strangest thing was how deep they were, pressed into the wet sand like whoever made them had been carrying something heavy. Sarah bent down to look closer. "Weird," she said, frowning. "These look fresh." We looked around, but the beach was still empty. There was no one behind us, no one ahead of us, no houses with lights or nearby, just us. "Probably a couple taking a late-night swim," Emily said, though her voice didn't sound convinced. We followed the prints for a few steps until they just stopped, right at the edge of the dunes. No prints leading further, no sign of where they went. I tried to laugh it off, but a strange unease settled over me as we walked back to the house. The air felt heavier, like a storm might be coming, but the sky was clear. When we got back, Sarah made us hot chocolate even though it was summer, and we sat out on the porch listening to the waves. For a while, I forgot about the footprints, but then we heard it, a sound coming from the dunes. It was faint at first, just a soft rustling, like someone walking through the tall grass. Sarah froze, her mug halfway to her mouth. "Probably just the wind," Emily said, though she didn't sound sure. We listened. The sound came again. Rustle, rustle, then silence. I got up and peered out toward the dunes, but it was too dark to see anything. The moonlight lit the sand near the water, but the dunes were just a jagged black shape against the sky. We waited, holding our breath. Nothing. After a few minutes, we went inside, locking the door behind us. I told myself we were being paranoid, but later, lying in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there, just beyond the dunes, standing still and waiting. The house creaked occasionally, The wind pushed against the windows, and every sound made my skin crawl. I pulled the blanket over my head, trying to block it all out. At some point, I must have fallen asleep. When I woke up, the house was silent. The moonlight still filtered through the curtains, casting pale stripes on the floor. I sat up, my mouth dry, and glanced toward the window. That's when I saw it. A single wet footprint on the porch outside. It was bare, human, and facing the door. I froze, staring at it, too scared to move. I told myself it was one of ours. Maybe we tracked water up from the beach earlier. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The shape was wrong. Too long, the toes spread strangely wide. I backed away from the window and lay back down, pulling the blanket tight around me. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. When morning came, the footprint was gone. The next day, I told Sarah and Emily about the footprint. They laughed it off at first, saying I must have been half asleep, that it was probably one of ours left over from the night walk. But I could tell Sarah was a little shaken too. She went outside to check the porch and the sand near the steps. Nothing. No prints. No sign anyone had been there. By afternoon, we'd shaken it off. We swam, sunbathed, and cooked an early dinner. For a few hours, it felt like a normal summer trip again. But as night fell, I felt that heaviness in the air again. That strange tension I couldn't explain. The three of us stayed up late, sitting on the porch, talking quietly. The moon was bright again, and the ocean shimmered under it. Then, just after midnight, I saw something. It was far down the beach at first, a figure standing near the edge of the water. I froze, staring at it, my heart hammering. "Do you guys see that?" I whispered. Sarah squinted. "What?" "There," I said, pointing. And then the figure moved. It didn't walk. It just seemed to shift, suddenly closer, like 1 second it was far away, and the next it was halfway down the beach. "Okay, that's creepy," Emily muttered, standing up. "It was a man, at least. I think it was a man. He was tall, unnaturally tall, with long arms that hung low at his sides. His head seemed tilted slightly, like he was watching us. He didn't move closer this time. He just stood there. Maybe it's a fisherman," Sarah whispered, though her voice trembled. At midnight, Emily shot back. None of us said anything else. We went inside, locking the door behind us. I shut every curtain in the house, but I swear I could still feel him out there, just standing, just waiting. We tried to sleep, but around 2 in the morning, a loud bang jolted us awake. It came from the side of the house, like someone had slapped the wall with an open hand. Then another bang, and another. It moved along the wall toward the front porch. Emily grabbed her phone, her hands shaking. "Should we call someone?" "Who?" Sarah asked. "The police. What are we even going to say? That some guy is knocking on the house." Bang. This one was at the front door. We froze, staring at each other. Then it stopped. The silence was worse somehow. I gathered enough courage to peek through the curtain. Nothing. The porch was empty. We stayed up until sunrise, every sound making us jump. When the first light finally came, we decided to go down to the beach, just to prove to ourselves that nothing was wrong. But when we reached the dunes, we stopped. There were footprints again. Fresh ones, leading from the water straight to our house. And they weren't just footprints this time. There were handprints too, smeared into the wet sand like someone had been crawling on all fours. We ran back to the house, locking every door and window. That night, we didn't even try to sit outside. We stayed in the living room with every light on. It was around midnight when the banging started again. This time it was louder, more violent. Bang. Bang. Like someone was trying to break the door down. Then we heard something else. A dragging sound across the porch, like wet feet sliding against the wood. Emily started crying. I forced myself to look out the window again, and that's when I saw him. He was standing at the edge of the porch this time, closer than he'd ever been. His face hidden by shadow, but I could see his mouth. It was smiling, a wide, wet grin that seemed to stretch too far across his face. He lifted one hand and tapped on the window, slow and deliberate. Tap, tap. I stumbled back, my heart racing. "He's right there," I screamed. Sarah and Emily rushed to the window just in time to see him move, not away, but toward the dunes, like he was luring us. And then he was gone. We didn't sleep, we just sat there, waiting, listening. It was almost dawn when the noise came again. But this time it wasn't banging. It was a voice. Low, distant, but clear. "Come outside." We froze, staring at each other. "Please, it's beautiful." The voice was sing-song, almost playful, but there was something wrong with it. Too deep, too wet, like it was gargling seawater. Then we heard something else. Footsteps, right outside the door. Slow. Dragging. We backed into the kitchen, clutching whatever we could find. A broom, a frying pan, anything. The door handle started to turn, and then, as suddenly as it started, everything went silent. When the sun rose, there were wet handprints all over the porch railing, and written in the sand, just a few feet away, were words. "Come swim with me." I don't think any of us spoke for a full minute. We just stared at the words carved into the sand. "Come swim with M.E." as the tide slowly crept closer, erasing them letter by letter. That was the breaking point. Sarah was the first to speak. "We need to leave. Today, right now." Emily didn't argue. I didn't either. We threw our things into our bags in a rush, not caring about folding clothes or checking under the bed. I could barely breathe, like the house itself was pressing down on my chest. But when we got outside to load the car, we froze. The path through the dunes, the only way to get to our car parked on the other side, was covered in footprints. Dozens of them, going back and forth, circling, some on all fours. And at the end of the path, near the car, stood the figure. Even in daylight, he looked wrong. His skin was pale and glistening, like he'd just stepped out of the ocean. His arms were too long, his shoulders hunched, his head tilted at that same unnatural angle. He didn't move. He just stood there, blocking the way to the car. "Back inside," Sarah whispered, and we bolted for the house, slamming the door behind us. Inside, we panicked. "What do we do?" Emily cried. "We wait," Sarah said, pacing. "We wait until he's gone, then we run for it." But the waiting was worse than anything. Minutes dragged into an hour. We peeked through the curtains, but he was still there, standing silent, like he had all the time in the world. Then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, he moved. Not toward us, toward the water. He walked slowly, unnaturally, like his joints bent the wrong way. "Now!" Sarah hissed. We grabbed our bags and ran. The sand was hot under our feet, the air heavy with salt and fear. We didn't look back. I reached the car first, fumbling with the keys. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped them in the sand. That's when I heard it, the sound of water splashing, but the tide was too far away for that. I turned my head. He was running, not toward the ocean, toward us. I screamed and grabbed the keys, somehow unlocking the car. We threw the bags inside and piled in. Sarah was behind the wheel. She didn't wait for us to buckle up. She slammed the car into reverse, spinning us around so fast the tires kicked up sand. The figure reached the edge of the path just as we sped away. I swear I saw him smile again. Wide, too wide, as if his jaw might unhinge. And then we were gone. The beach shrinking behind us. The house disappearing over the dunes. None of us spoke for miles. When we finally reached the main road, Sarah pulled over. We sat there in silence, catching our breath, shaking. "That wasn't human," Emily said finally, her voice small. "No," I said, staring out the window. "It wasn't." We drove straight home that day. For a while, I tried to convince myself it had just been some sick prank. Maybe some local creep trying to scare tourists. But then, a week later, I had a dream. I was standing on the beach again, the moon bright over the water. He was there, standing at the edge of the surf, smiling. And he said it again, his voice low and wet. "Come swim with me." When I woke up, my feet were wet. We never went back to that town. I don't even like the ocean anymore. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and the world is still, I swear I can hear waves crashing, even though I live nowhere near the coast. And sometimes, when I look out my bedroom window, I think I see him standing there, head tilted, smiling, waiting. If Rachel's story scared you, you might want to skip this one, because my experience happened a year later, at a completely different beach, and it was worse. My name is Lavra, and I wasn't even supposed to go on vacation that summer. Work had been rough, and I was barely getting by. But when my cousin Megan invited me to spend a week with her and her friends in a little seaside town, a few hours from where we grew up, I couldn't resist. This place was nothing like the quiet, lonely beaches most people imagine. It was lively, colourful houses lining the shore, seafood restaurants playing music late into the night, and a long pier where people gathered to fish, dance, or just watch the sunset. The house we rented was a cheerful yellow cottage with seashell wind chimes hanging from the porch. There were 5 of us total, me, Megan, her boyfriend Alex, and 2 of his friends. The first 2 days were perfect. We spent our mornings swimming and exploring the tide pools, our afternoons eating fried shrimp and ice cream, and our nights sitting around a bonfire on the beach. There was always laughter, music, and the constant sound of waves. It felt like the kind of trip you look back on years later and smile about. But then things started to get weird. It began with the locals. The woman who ran the small grocery store warned us casually, almost offhand, "Don't stay on the beach too late." When Megan asked why, the woman just smiled thinly and said, "Things come out of the water at night." We all laughed about it later. "She's just trying to freak out the tourists," Alex said. But a few days later, we heard the same warning again, this time from an old fisherman on the pier. He was wiry and sunburned, his face weathered from years on the water. "You kids be careful," he said, his voice low. "After midnight, stay off the sand." "Why?" Megan asked, grinning, thinking he was joking. He looked at her, dead serious. "They come for you," he said simply. Then he turned and walked away. That night, we tried to brush it off, but the words stuck with me. They come for you. Who comes? I didn't ask. On the 4th night, we had another bonfire. The moon was full, the sky cloudless, and we stayed longer than usual. Around midnight, most of the couples started heading back to their houses, leaving just the 5 of us sitting by the fire. The night was strangely still. Usually there was music drifting from the town, or the sound of other beachgoers laughing in the distance. But that night, it felt like the world had gone quiet. Too quiet. The fire popped and crackled, but beyond that, nothing. Then I heard it, a faint sound coming from the water. At first, I thought it was a gull. A shriek carried on the wind, but then it came again, louder, clearer. A scream, high-pitched, desperate, like someone drowning. I froze, staring at the dark line of waves. "Did you guys hear that?" I whispered. Megan nodded slowly, her face pale. Alex got to his feet. "Probably someone messing around," he said, but he didn't sound convinced. The scream came again. This time it was closer, and it didn't sound like someone messing around. It sounded like someone begging for help. Alex grabbed a flashlight and ran toward the water, but I stayed frozen in the sand, my whole body tense. The beam of light swept across the waves. Nothing. No swimmer, no boat, no sign anyone was out there. Then, just as Alex turned back toward us, the scream came one last time. But this time, it was behind us. Somewhere in the dunes. We left the beach immediately, stumbling through the sand, tripping over driftwood in our hurry to get back to the house. The wind had picked up suddenly, howling through the grass. I swore I heard something moving in the dunes, something keeping pace with us just out of sight. When we finally reached the cottage and slammed the door, no one spoke for a long time. Then Alex laughed nervously. "Probably just coyotes," he said. But I could see in his face that he didn't believe that. None of us did. When I went to bed that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing it, that scream, over and over in my head. And I kept thinking about what the fisherman said. "They come for you." I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that scream. And worse, I thought I could hear something else layered under it, like a chorus of voices whispering through the sound of crashing waves. By morning, we were all on edge. Megan suggested we take the day off from the beach and visit a nearby town. But Alex rolled his eyes. "We came here for the ocean," he said. "We can't just sit in the house because of some weird noise." He managed to convince everyone, except me, to go back to the beach that night. I didn't want to go. Every instinct in my body told me to stay inside. But I went anyway. We built another fire. Though none of us laughed or played music this time, the moon was out again, huge and silver, and the tide was higher than usual. Foamy waves crawling closer and closer to our fire pit. For the first hour, nothing happened. Then we heard it again. The scream. But this time, it was different, clearer, more human, like it was coming from someone just beyond the first line of waves. Alex grabbed the flashlight again and strode toward the water. "Alex, stop," I hissed. "What if it's real this time?" "That's exactly why I need to check," he said. He swept the beam of light across the waves, then froze. There was someone standing waist deep in the surf. At least, it looked like someone. Its head was tilted back, its arms hanging at its sides, hair plastered across its face. Then it took a step toward us. Megan grabbed my arm. "Oh my God," she whispered. Another step. Its movements were jerky, unnatural, like it was fighting against the water or against its own body. "Hello?" Alex called. No answer. The figure took another step and then stopped. For a moment, everything was silent except for the crash of the waves. Then it smiled. Even from a distance, I could see its mouth stretched too wide, the white of its teeth glinting in the moonlight. And then it screamed. Not a scream for help this time. A scream of rage, high-pitched and inhuman. It started running toward us. Water exploded around its legs as it tore through the surf. Too fast, impossibly fast. "Run!" I shouted, and we bolted. I could hear it behind us. Wet feet slapping against the sand, getting closer. We made it to the fire pit. But before we could get past it, something grabbed my ankle. I fell hard, my hands sinking into the wet sand. When I looked back, it was there. Pale, dripping, its long fingers wrapped around my leg. Its face was inches from mine now. Hair hanging in clumps, eyes like empty black pits. Its mouth opened wider than any mouth should, And that scream came again, so loud I thought my eardrums would burst. I kicked and clawed, my foot sliding in its grip. Then Megan grabbed a burning piece of driftwood from the fire and swung it at the thing. It let go, jerking back as if the fire had burned it. We didn't wait to see what it would do next. We ran, sprinting for the dunes, not daring to look back. When we reached the cottage, we slammed the door and locked every window, our chests heaving. But then we heard it. That same scream, right outside the house. And then, tapping on the windows. Tap, tap, tap. It moved around the house, tapping on every single pane of glass like it was checking to see which one would break first. Then silence. We huddled in the center of the room, too terrified to move. Hours passed. The sky started to lighten. Finally, we dared to look outside. The beach was empty, but all around the house, circling it in the sand, were footprints, dozens of them, leading back toward the water. And written just outside the porch in crooked, wet letters was a single word: tonight. We spent the rest of the day in a panic. Alex swore he would stay up all night with a bat if he had to, but I couldn't take it anymore. "I'm leaving," I said. "I don't care if it's 4 days early. I'm not staying here another night." No one argued this time, but when we went to pack the car, we found something that made my blood run cold. Every single door handle was wet, dripping with seawater, even though we hadn't been near the ocean since dawn. By the time we loaded the car, the sun was already sinking low on the horizon. Every minute that passed, the ocean seemed louder, the air heavier, like something was waiting for nightfall. We packed in silence, none of us daring to say what we were all thinking. What if we don't get out in time? When we were finally ready, Alex started the car, and we pulled out of the driveway. But we didn't get far. As soon as our tires hit the soft sand road leading toward town, the car jerked violently to the side. The back tire had gone flat. Alex cursed and got out to check. But when he came back, he looked pale. "There's no way this was an accident," he said quietly. "It's slashed, like, with a knife." We all stared at each other. Who would have slashed our tire out here, in the middle of nowhere? Or maybe the better question was, what did it? The sun had dipped even lower now. Shadows were stretching across the dunes, and the sound of the waves felt deafening. "We don't have time for this," Megan said, her voice shaking. "We can walk. It's not that far to town." So we grabbed what we could carry and ran. I've never moved so fast in my life. Heart pounding, every step sending sand flying behind me. Halfway down the road, I heard it. That scream again. But this time it wasn't far away. It was right behind us. I didn't dare look back. We ran faster, our legs burning, our breaths coming in short, panicked gasps. Something was following us. We could hear it in the sand. Heavy, wet footsteps slapping against the ground. And then it started to laugh. It was the most horrifying sound I've ever heard. A deep, bubbling laugh, as if its lungs were full of water, as if it was choking even as it found us funny. "Don't stop," Alex shouted. But Megan tripped. I turned back just in time to see something grab her by the arm, yanking her backward into the sand. I screamed and grabbed her other arm, pulling with everything I had. For a moment, I thought I was going to lose her. She was sinking, like the sand itself was pulling her down, her legs kicking frantically. Then Alex charged forward and swung the tire iron he'd grabbed from the trunk. It connected with something. I didn't see what, just heard a wet cracking sound, and smelled something like seawater mixed with rotting fish. Whatever had her let go. We didn't wait to see if it was coming back. We dragged Megan to her feet and ran, not stopping until we saw the lights of the town ahead. Only then did we collapse on the boardwalk, gasping, shaking, covered in sand. People gathered around us, asking if we were okay, but we couldn't answer. We just kept staring back toward the dunes. Nothing was there. No figure, no movement. Just the dark, endless beach. We left town that night, crammed into a stranger's pickup truck who took pity on us when he saw our ruined car. None of us said a word the entire drive. When I finally got home the next day, I locked every door and window and took the longest shower of my life, trying to scrub the smell of salt and sand off me. I didn't go near water for weeks. But then, about a month later, something happened that made me realize it might not be over. I was lying in bed, half asleep, when I heard it. A faint tapping on my bedroom window. I live on the second floor. I froze, barely breathing. The tapping came again. I forced myself to look. And there it was. A wet handprint, slowly sliding down the glass. No face. No body. Just the print. Dripping. As if someone or something had just climbed up to my window from outside. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, the handprint was gone. But I could still smell the ocean. And I swear, if I listen closely enough, I can still hear that bubbling laugh somewhere far away, waiting for me to come back to the water. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed one more night. Would we all have been dragged into the ocean? Our screams lost under the roar of the waves? Or would we have joined the thing that haunted us? Become part of whatever they are? I don't know. But I do know one thing. If you ever find yourself on a quiet beach after midnight, and you hear someone screaming for help from the water, run. No matter what you think you hear. Because some things that call from the ocean don't want to be saved.